or look us up on the web, na.org.
Yes, Facebook Live going.
No.
Facebook Live, a few just tweaks there that we're getting ready.
Eventually we are live.
Yeah.
PM on a business Mario on a Facebook page, and you can see the beauty, sheer beauty and knowledge, and like of course our awesome guest in the studio. Where before we continue, Darren, I heard this one, Narcotics Anonymous. You mean narcotics, or is it really narcotics?
Yeah, I think we just got to.
Very interesting guest in the studio, as usually all our guests are in studio with us. They are not just ordinary people. They are ordinary people with the superpowers, which they can help you. Now, guess is laughing. Like he has a cape under. With a big. They have some special skills and some truly superpowers, not just to help you, but to help you with their experience and their story, and to empower you. That's a very important word, to empower you, because it's cold outside, it's winter, and before we chop off the trees in the park, start make the log fire in the backyard, I like to introducing our guest, Darren. So we have the guest in studio. He has an interesting surname in Croatian language that means play. Anthony Igra. Anthony, welcome to the studio.
Hi, Mario. Thanks for having me.
Listen, I try to introduce you. You're going to take your cape now and everything else. Mate,
I think everyone deserves to see my six-pack, don't you think so?
No, don't steal my show. That's mine, Darren worked so hard to make this, profile of me, six-pack and everything.
Most definitely, Mario.
It's all in the lighting, as they say.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, we have the 250,000 listeners at this very moment. So, it's a good number. But for our listeners now, tune in, not just in Sydney, Australia, but globally, because everybody who listen live can go on the website, live 90.5 FM, and you can tune in, listen to this awesome show, and you hear our guest. Anthony, once again, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Anthony, Darren and I, we have the usually, very simple question for beginning, credit card number and the PIN number. So, you can leave this straight away to us.
Second, mate.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Anthony Igra is a middle-class white male, age 51.
Oh, what? When the middle age, you think that's a 50 is a new middle age?
No, I think it's the early Middle Ages.
Early Middle Ages.
Yeah, I think it's early Middle Ages, really.
And who's Anthony? Where your walk?
Who am I? I'm the son of European post-war immigrants, I think.
Where's it from, your parents?
Yeah, my father is from Poland. My mother's from Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
My father passed away 20 years ago, but they met in Sydney in the late 60s.
Oh, okay.
Mid to late 60s in Sydney. She was actually married beforehand, and she was running a cafe in King's Cross, when the Cross was a very ritzy place to go out to in the 60s.
Look, I don't know that much about history with King Cross,
yeah.
but I heard that it was not always been the district of the fun only. There was a very...
No, it was a very swanky part of Sydney in the 60s, a very fashionable place to go out on a Saturday night. But Les Girls were there, and it was a cafe kind of opposite Les Girls when that used to be there. And he used to stop there for dinner, my father, on his way home.
Okay.
And that's how they met. And so then she left...
Did she have a choice? You, but so now stop everything. Now come with me.
Yeah, she did. He was quite artistic, my dad, and he used to sketch her on the napkins while he was eating.
Yeah,
while she was going around. So there's a tip. That's a very interesting way to meet
Darren,
a woman.
That type of the approach to the woman. You're sketching on a serviette, on a napkin. It's a long time ago.
You
now
do.
Look at me, maybe.
Give me a selfie, and me and my sketching.
if you
relationship.
came to stick figure and said, "This is you, honey," I don't think you'd get too far.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So they met and they decided to,
Yeah, got married, and I was born in 1968. My brother was born in 1970, and we had a kind of it was not a good marriage. It was my father's fourth marriage. Fourth.
love is in the air.
Yeah, well, not quite then. So
Okay.
I was actually then with my brother and my mother. My mother left him. They separated, and it was quite an odd thing to have a single mother in 1970. You know, that was not.
It was different
very
perception
different
of the society.
Yeah, and we moved into a God, it was. I mean, she had no money. My father was very well to do. He had a very good business. And but you know, at that time, the state of the family courts and family law was she had to kind of make do on her own for quite a while. And we moved into this tiny place, which is still there, funnily enough, in King's Cross.
When you say tiny place, how tiny? It's for
It
the
was,
midgets or for the? It's like.
Yeah, well, it was small even when I was 2.5 years old. So I'm sure.
So you grew up on a King Cross?
No. We were only there for a little while. I grew up in Bondi Beach.
Seriously. Why would you say that? You know, I mean, like I was expecting. I mean, it's gonna be, still King Cross.
Well,
yeah,
but hang on, Bondi Beach in the early 70s. That is not the Bondi Beach of today. Bondi Beach in the
Can you
early
describe us your childhood in Bondi? How that was look like?
It was
apart you seeing Darren and I running every day on a beach.
Bondi was a very tumble down, run down place. A lot of post-war immigrants lived there at the time. It was very ramshackle. It is not the trendy place it is today. That really only started in the 1990s. We had an old building. The weekly rent was $37 a week for being right off the Ocean Walk.
Darren, can you confirm this price?
I need to relive my life, I think.
But
really?
Well,
$37 there.
$37 on the beach
No, it's
side.
$37.
Back there, that same apartment I grew up in.
Yeah.
Was put on the market in about 2001.
Yes.
And it sold, and I went in to look at it, and God, it was small now that I was grown up. It was in the same condition that it was before, and it sold for $1.25 million.
Yeah.
In the same rundown condition. I couldn't believe it. But look, the life there is the one that now people look back on with fondness. It was crawling over rocks, crawling around the beach, crawling around parks. It was, leaving, on holidays, you'd be out the door at 8 a.m. and you wouldn't get home till 5 or 6, and no one cared where you were. And me and the neighbourhood kids rode around on our bikes. And
can I ask you something? It's not related to nothing else than just growing up on a Bondi. When you walk in a Bondi today, and you obviously because you grow up and being your childhood, what would be your biggest happiness you seeing now, the difference in the Bondi Junction now, Bondi Beach and right now? Or what is the biggest difference you're seeing now, apart of the shops and everything else? Do you see that it's a culture change, or is like less immigrants living there? Or do you see that even the kids, it doesn't play the places you used to play?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is Bondi is very much now for show.
Well, we have that famous show. What's it called? Bondi Rescue, right, or something?
Yeah. Well, besides from a TV show, it's very much very I think it's a very image conscious little pocket of the world now.
Yeah.
Full of beautiful people, and although I fit in there perfectly most of the time, Murray, and certainly you would too. It's very, very showy. Sometimes I don't really feel at home there anymore. It used to be a place really. It was very working class.
Yeah.
And it was just fish and chip shops and other little stores and fruit shops, etc. Now it's been replaced by boutiques and clothing boutiques and swanky eateries and places. It's very, very different.
See, that's what makes you unique, Anthony, with us, with our listeners. We love to hear the story, you know what I mean? Not just, how successful you are because you're a successful businessman, but what it is makes you human. It's that you will remember $37 per week. That what you said, $37 per week. It was a rent, Darren.
Amazing. And there wasn't much furniture in there.
50 cents, I'd say.
A paddle pop, I can tell you with great authority that a paddle pop back then was 8 cents.
8 cents. Okay, I'm just in Australia. 21 years. Do we take a short break? You're listening a live 90.5 Business Sisters in Mari. With us in studio is Anthony Igra, who's going to continue with us a little bit later. Just to take a short break. Thank you for listening.
90.5, playing cool music.
It's 28 minutes past 10. You're live. 90.5.
Yeah.
Business Insights with Mario.
Well, thank you, Darren, very much for this one. And let's go continue with our guest, Anthony Igra. Anthony, your childhood. So you grew up on the Bondi. And what life brought to you then after the Bondi?
We were there for a while. We moved to various places around Bondi, North Bondi. And then finally, after 18 years, my parents finally got a divorce settlement. It took
18 years.
18 years, yeah. It was a long, drawn-out back and forth. And we then bought a house in Newport Beach.
Okay.
Up on the northern beaches,
yes,
long way away. By then, I was just in university then. So, and we were seeing our dad on the weekend, and we moved up to Newport Beach, and we're up there I was up there for 5 years.
Yeah.
I quite liked it up there, but it was way too far from I went to New South Wales University. It was miles away, but I enjoyed the kind of beach lifestyle up there. And
did you surfing and all these things? Yeah.
Never much of a surfer. I was quite a swimmer, but not much of a surfer. But I stayed away from the surfies.
Yeah.
And after that, finally in 1994, I was moved out. And where did I go back, Mario? But back to Bondi.
Of course. Yeah, Bondi. It's a terrific place now. I don't remember any from your times, but I must say it's a very lucrative place to be, and it's healthy.
Yeah, look, it was back then. I still train 3 mornings a week, but then I was quite into a lot of running. I run the Bondi to Bronte almost every morning, and that was the that was from 1994, and what was I doing then? Yes.
Remember, it's like a
Back
blackout.
and forth.
It's like
trying to work it out. Yeah, okay, good. So at that time, you see, when I finished university, I finished...
What did you finish?
And I finished an arts degree with a major in literature, okay?
Okay.
And theatre studies.
And you're sitting with me in the studio, who is English sixth language, you know what I mean? Like, thank you very much.
Well, I've got to have some advantage here, But,
That's correct, yeah.
That's right. I'm a very bookish type of person, and I didn't really know what to do with my life, as you know, in a
Yeah,
broader
we all,
sense.
like, yes.
Didn't really know in a broader sense. Just remember the times that when I had finished university in 1990, we had that recession. Things were pretty bad. You kind of bounced around for a little bit. So I went into some sales roles, and if we look at 1994, so I was actually selling cars. I was selling BMWs.
That's interesting. What you see, you finished university, and obviously it was a recession. I mean, I was in Australia at that time, and I don't know, but how did you land a job to sell the cars?
God,
Was it just a pure accident? Or?
Yeah, it was a referral from someone who knew the dealer principal, and he rang me up. And,
Did you enjoy selling the cars? Not really.
Not really. Up and down. I didn't really enjoy it, particularly people who came to buy BMWs. Say not warm, fuzzy people, Mario. And
They
let me know my place.
Well, look, that's a sad part of the life. I mean, there's always going to be that gap. I mean, we can talk in public, diversity. We all same. We all this and that. But eventually, we all different roles of the life and the jobs. And of course, there's going to be somebody who's going to try to portray himself better. So, what's your intake of this role and sales of the?
Look, it made you did learn how to negotiate.
Yeah.
Pick up a poker face.
Yeah.
And not develop quite a thick skin in how people treated you.
Okay.
To develop a thick skin and just keep your mind focused on what you had to do and negotiation, which helps me to this day.
May I ask you something? Like, we start a conversation very well, smile on the face, your energy, everything else. Did something happen then? Would you like to share with us? Is something negative experience?
Something happened?
Yeah, like a negative experience when you were working down the role as a BMW?
Or was there a negative experience?
Yeah.
Oh, look, you had a few people complained about me.
Oh, okay, well, that's normal, I mean, like,
not a particularly negative experience. It's just I wasn't fantastic at it. I was just kind of very middle of the road. And when I do something, I do like to be very, very good at what I do, and it just didn't gel with me to the point that I felt I was something that I didn't want to do it. Obviously, even for the medium term, it was something to do, and it paid my bills. And I thought, well, could I get good at it? Do I really like it? Probably not. And after about 3.5 years, I think it was, or 4 years, 3.5 years, I let it go. I just resigned and I left. And it was great learning.
What did you do then?
What did I do then? I actually took about a year off.
Okay.
Or 6 months off. I just actually didn't. I had enough money just to not do anything for a while, and I'd been working for like since uni, just non-stop. I hadn't travelled at all. A lot of my friends and peers had taken that gap year.
Yeah.
I never got to do it. I didn't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And I never had any downtime. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take some downtime, even if it's at home. How bad can it be? I'll get up late, go to Bondi Beach, chill out, swim, enjoy. And that's what I did. Around the same time, so my father was not very well at all during this time. So
we're talking like mid-90s, right? That's what
mid-90s. So he had smoked his whole adult life. But when I say smoke, I mean crazy. I'm talking 40 to 60 cigarettes a day. I'm talking insane. Lighting one cigarette when you already had one burning that he'd forgotten about. And it destroyed his lungs. And his emphysema hit him probably in the mid-90s or early 90s. And then just what happens with emphysema is your lung capacity just starts to shrink. And it started to shrink and shrink and shrink. So he was getting quite unwell, and we started to discuss what life would be like if he wasn't around, and what was his affair. He had a lot of. He was also a very artistic type, even though he's quite successful. He was an artistic type, and so he didn't look into details like wills and homes and other things that he'd done in his life that remained still incomplete.
Even today.
Incomplete. No, today they're very complete. But at that time he said, well, now I need to tell you about all this. And there were a whole various range of things in his life that were just so silly that he'd done in a very innocent way, entered into certain dealings and arrangements in an innocent way. And even at that age, I could see, Dad, we have to go and shut all that down, fix all that up, and get a lawyer in to fix you with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So that took a good 3 to 4 years of
clearing that
to do all that. Even when I started working in 1998 for a phone company in corporate sales.
Okay.
And also in 98 I started a business degree at Macquarie University, and it wasn't an MBA that I was doing, but it was on the way to an MBA. In the end, I didn't do a full MBA. I did a master's, which I finished in 2000. But at that time, I'm studying, I'm working full-time, I'm doing uni 2 nights a week, and I'm with him 2 nights a week trying to sort through 30 years of total mayhem and documentation and so on. And you know what? It's the skills of arts degree and the wordsmithery and your arts degree that comes to the fore, because I could take 1,000 pages of text, sort it out, make sense of it, and deal with it. And people often laugh at arts degrees or literature degrees or that type of thing, but that's a very powerful skill set, and that is exactly the skill set that I built my business on.
You know the powerful it is? Your story. I'm just looking how you're talking about, and you take this task on yourself, to help your father, and, to clear all this, artistic work, with the details. And for that one, I truly I admire you for that. Anthony, I'm admire you. Well, we'll take a short break so you can have some sip of water. You're listening live 90.5. This is Inside with us in studio. It's Anthony Igra from Contractors Debt Recovery Agency. And we're going to continue after a few with his story.
hits
Not enough
and
blood in my
yesterday's favourites.
Alive 90.5.
It's 17 minutes to 11. You're on Business Insights with Mario, and it's 15 degrees, a bit drizzly outside, but nice and warm in the studio. And we're with Anthony Igra, and he's talking a lot about.
Yeah, all I'm hearing it's somebody who's very determined and a kind and generous person, and not just because of his parents, but children learning his life story. So, Anthony, what was the move then after after your father?
So that was
doing the university twice per week at
Yes,
night.
I was
then
going
you with your father as well. That's a big burden for.
It was 4 nights a week I was going and doing assignments on weekends, so that was an exhausting period of time. And he was getting sicker and sicker. He was in hospital, out of hospital. And so finally, in February 2000, he died. He just went to hospital, He had no, his lung capacity had fallen below 10%, so all you can do is lie there on a ventilator. And that was very sobering, but you can't say it wasn't expected.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, I was 31, and I have to say that's when my adult life probably started, because all my 20s was just working.
Yeah.
I didn't really have much money to speak of. I didn't have any options of couldn't travel or do other things. My life became very serious very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So after he died, I decided to smell the roses a bit. So I was the executor of his estate.
Okay.
And thank God for those 3 preceding years, because I knew where everything was and what was going on and everything. And can you imagine you'd be thrown in the deep end otherwise? So before dealing with all of that, I took a holiday. I had so much leave from my work. I was still working. By then I'd moved out of sales in that company, and I was an operations manager.
Okay.
So I had got about 40 or 50 people that I was managing.
Did you go by
across 6
BMW?
Things. No, definitely not. No. Just dropped too much cash, mate.
Yeah.
I had a Mitsubishi Mirage, I'll have you know.
Oh, very sexy car.
Tremendous. Oh, very successful in that regard. So, at that time. So I booked a holiday. So in August 2000, I went away for 6 weeks to the United States to meet my uncles, whom my father's 2 brothers lived in America, in Miami. And I'd met one when I was 12, just briefly, and never met the other.
Yeah.
So I did a big Kontiki tour of the United States. So I started in LA, and we went right across America to St. Augustine's on the on the East Coast, and then all the way up the East Coast to New York.
Yeah.
And I had some family in New York, had some family in Miami. I had and had a great time. It was really a fantastic time. And then
Did you have a desire to come back in Australia or stay in?
No,
US?
I definitely didn't want to stay in the US. It was a good place to visit, but no thanks. The food was bloody awful, and I remember asking for a beef sandwich, a roast beef sandwich, and they gave me a cow between 2 pieces of bread.
Oh my God!
Just ridiculous.
Because they have the sizes, right?
My God, it was just gross. Anyway, look, I had good people there, and it was good fun. And then stayed with some further family in Houston, and then came home. And I was home for only a few months until the tech wreck hit. And the company that I worked for was really part of a subsidiary of an American company, and all these companies went under. This is towards the end of 2000. And our company, the company that I worked for, put in a huge amount of redundancies, and I was one of them. So that was in 2000 and late 2000, early 2001.
Yeah.
And it was kind of bittersweet. So first of all, it was sweet because they gave me 6 months pay and said, you leave immediately, which means I didn't have to deal with any of the problems after lunch.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of cash. They said, see you later, at me and amongst a lot of other people. But I also decided then, shortly after, that I don't want to work for anyone else anymore.
Why? Tell me why. I'm waiting for this very moment. Tell me why.
Because it just annoyed the hell. Well, because I had done a fantastic job, and it's kind of a sense of devaluation when you go, mate, we're scaling back and we just don't need you anymore. And in my own mind, I thought, if there's one person you do need in all this mess, it's me.
I tell you something, which I really appreciate, and Darren's can, Darren, you can, was GFC was 2009 in February. Like I was as well in corporate world, and I was finally coming to that role where you are, you're happy, you get a good salary, everything else, and then suddenly, envelope on Monday morning. I didn't even have a first sip of coffee, and get out because we can't sustain your salary. We would make redundancies. And then I realized actually in the workplace you have so much responsibility, accountability, but there's no control. You have no control over nothing.
That's it, control. I mean, as tough as running your own show is, the independence you have gives you a sense of calm. Because I got no one on my back saying, what about this, what about that, except me.
And what makes a difference for you now when you're working for yourself? You're seeing, we used to work in corporate world. You come to work, you get paid, but you're being used your time. Now you need to fight for your pay, but you're managing your time on your different way. Do you know how better to use the time in the business?
Well, that's right. Not only I decide how I use my time, but there's a sense of not being limited as to what you can do, because in any type of business, there are services you can add, services you can take away, new things you can branch out into, and it's exciting. And something might succeed, something might fail. You don't know, but that's the adventure of doing it. Look, we'll get to that probably later on, but it's a
no, we're not there. No, we're not. We're going to come.
He's tough.
This is the current business you're running now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you decide to do? What's the name of your business you started, first of all? I mentioned a few times before, but...
Yeah, Contractors Debt Recovery.
Okay.
I started that in 2006, but you've jumped 5 years, Mario.
Oh, okay, sorry. Come on,
This is action-packed stuff.
Okay, well, so it's a blockbuster
We've got
then,
a bit of
what
time to go, No, you're missing all the good stuff. So look, it was 2001.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what to do, but by then I'd sold my father's estate. I'd sold everything off, and my brother had some money. I had some money for the first time in my life. We had some money, and I didn't have to do something immediately to pay my rent or to do anything. I could actually take a breather. So I took a breather, my friend, for about 18 months.
That's a long breather. Darren, we're going to take a breather as well.
Took a breather for about 18 months. But I have to tell you that we're taking a breather now.
We are taking a breather.
Debt recovery, and very powerful, truthful, honest story of growing up on King Cross, Bondi Beach, Northern Beaches, and then as well launching his own successful business. Stay with us a lot with Mario and Darren.
It's 4 minutes to 11 on Alive 90.5. Business Insights with Mario. Take it away for...
Oh, thank you. Grilling our guest who shared this honest, truthful, powerful story which will inspire many. Anthony Igra from the Contractors Debt Recovery. So, Anthony, for the very first time you have some money in your brother, you take a breather for 18 months. That's
Yeah,
a long breather.
I was wiped out. It was very, very stressful. The whole
It is like, losing the parent, it's not... It's
losing
like,
the parents, sorting out the estate. It was all up to me. There was no one else. I didn't have any uncle, or I didn't have any other figure in my family. It was all down to me. I had to make some quite big decisions involving quite sums of money, and it was not easy. So I was exhausted. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So at that time I had some money. So the first thing I did was buy my own place. So I bought an apartment.
Let me guess, Bondi?
No, Randwick. I'd moved. Go back to Bondi. When I was living in Bondi, it'd become a backpacker nightmare, Bondi, with British backpackers and other backpackers.
Yeah.
And I was right in the thick of it. And there was one Saturday night where I heard an English boyfriend and girlfriend have a very foul-mouthed yelling match.
Yeah.
Out on the street. And at the same time, I could hear my neighbours doing various things in the wall next to me. You know what? Time to move out of here.
Yeah.
Time to move out of here. So, anyway, I bought an apartment in Randwick.
Yeah.
And it was my own place. It was very exciting. So that was 2002, early 2002. I finally had my own place, and it was only then that I thought, what next?
Well, we're going to take it now, the longer break, because we have the news, and we're going to continue after the news, 11 a.m., and you're going to hear more from Anthony Igra, Contracts of Debt Recovery. And I'd like to say thank you, Deborah Ibson from the Bay PR agency, for sending us Anthony with his interesting story. You're listening to Business Insights with Mario on Line 90.5. Take a short
God, you already have my banking details, didn't we? I train 3 mornings a week, just weight training and cardio training. I actually have been doing that for since I was 35. I've been doing that for 16 years.
Okay.
In my mid-30s already, I was very aware of the fact this is the time when the male body starts to go downhill. And, in middle age with all obesity and heart disease and all the rest of it. So, and I'd always been pretty fit most of my life. But I was so I just threw myself into that. And then now it's just very much part of the life, get up early and train. And for my current work, it's very good at managing stress levels and keeping you mentally alert. So, 3 mornings a week, get absolutely hammered by my trainer and then get into work. Yeah.
Question do I have for you? It's related to that, health stuff. There's a lot of business owners there, but even people, it's a lot of people who work in corporate world. But it seems to me that people take it it's very easy health thing. Would you give somebody suggestion, to exercise more in the morning rather than just being in a bed longer and, take it nice and easy, half a cup between the two slices of bread?
I have to say that you should look at your body as the vehicle for you for your entire life.
Don't look at me, look at Darren. I'm fat anyway, so it's like fit.
Road cyclists have a kind of half a death wish, man. You guys going around trucks and traffic.
Yeah, well, I've got 3 screws in my hip, but not because of the road actually, just because of a very silty weir in Parramatta. So
well, there you go.
It can be the most innocuous of places where you actually do come
to grief. Yeah. Look, I think this is all you've got for your whole life. It's got to take you through longer than ever, and there's no point. It's just a very sad outcome to be physically in a very bad place for the last 20 years of your life. And I think you can be more productive and have a better life if you're in good shape. And it actually gives you a high if you train really well. You have an emotional high. I think that's very important. So to someone who wants to sleep in all the time and eat too much, I'd say give yourself 30 to 60 days not to do that, and you'll feel the benefits straight away, and you won't go back.
And what better somebody give you a tip or advice than Anthony Igra from the Contracts of Debt Recovery. So Anthony, after 18 months breather, you come back in Australia. You bought yourself the nice Unique in Randwick.
Yeah.
And then?
Then I was set up on a blind date with...
there was no Tinder there or something.
No.
Was that those age internet?
No.
No.
All those apps that made it oh so easy.
Yeah.
So no, I was set up on
Tell us about blind date.
A blind date. Friends of mine said, look, a friend of mine was talking about how his cousin was going on these dates and they were just disasters. We know I was going on a few dates. They were all disasters. So what was asked her and go on a date with her, and told me her name. And I had actually met her at a party 5 years beforehand in 1998.
Speaking about destiny.
And I had worked my backside off trying to get her interested in me for about 2 hours and failed miserably.
For the landline number, those days.
Any recognition at all would have satisfied me. But look, we had a very polite conversation for a long time. Then she left and I thought, why would I try and get a number? This is just all too bloody hard. And it was this girl 5 years later. Would you like to go on a blind date with her? So it wasn't blind for me, but it was blind for her.
So you didn't know each other you're going to meet?
Hey?
Nothing. You didn't know you're going to meet that day?
No.
Not
well,
even
they set up
hint yet.
No, that was 5 years before. But on the blind date, I knew who she was, and I said, "Yep, let's set it up." But she'd forgotten who I was.
Oh, well, the girl stuff here usually.
I think she'd forgotten who I was literally 5 years before, immediately after that party. I think she'd forgotten who I was.
So you had an advantage, though.
Yeah, I had an advantage. I laid down a game plan. We strategized. I had a whole...
okay.
Which worked because we went on a blind date, and 4 months later we were engaged, and we've been married 16 years.
Speaking about destiny.
Boom, boom. There you go. And I think she might even be listening. My father-in-law might be listening. So this ties in to my business. My business. Because her father, now my father-in-law, was the commercial manager for the Electrical Contractors Association.
Okay.
And I then had I wasn't working anywhere, I had nothing, didn't know what I was going to do. And he said, why don't you, I've got two guys who have a very successfully growing business, electrical business. You've had an operations role. They need structure to help them grow. Why don't you go and talk to them? Maybe you can work with them for a while.
That's a good father-in-law, yeah?
Processes, procedures. Well, I mean, especially I'd only been dating his daughter now for a couple of months to already throw me a line. I must have made a reasonable impression. So he, so I did. I met those two guys, and they were actually younger. They were younger than me, and today very successful. They built some huge businesses in the construction industry, and I worked for them for about 18 months, and had pretty much done everything I'd had to do, and that was around 2005, 2006, But it was through working for them that, they were owed some money. People hadn't paid for their electrical work. And I thought, well, what's going on here? Most people outside construction don't understand how bad the problem is and the amounts of money we're
In construction
talking.
industry?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Who don't understand how much money we're talking about and how long people wait and how many times people don't get paid at all. So my father-in-law then said, well, why don't you look at this Security of Payment Act? And try and get them their money. So it was a piece of legislation. It was 23 pages. So
On English, of course.
wordsmith in English.
Short one, not too long.
Not too long. I'll have to read.
Yeah.
I mean, how good is life that you can read some legislation?
Yeah.
So I had a bit of a read, and I thought, I can do this. This is just like uni when I used to write essays and used to argue my case, and I had to provide evidence and I had to make an argument. But I do it for a good cause.
And you get paid as well.
And you get paid. Well, then I was already just working for them. For now, at that point, I just wanted to see, could I make this thing work? I mean, how hard is this? So that's what I did. I prepared, they were owed some money, and I prepared an application, and I worked through the process. And remember, the Security of Payment Act started in New South Wales in 2000, but in 2005, it was still very little used.
It was El
very
Dorado.
unknown. No one really knew what was going on, right? So I did an application, and it was successful, and they got paid. And I think it was about $80,000. So I thought, well, this looks like something, and I started to look into it. I hark back to the point, going back for years. I graduated with my business degree in 2001. Sadly, my father had already died. He never got to see it, sadly. But I thought, well, let's put that to use and see what potential there is with all this. So I established a few things pretty quickly. Number one, no one knows about it. Number two, no one knows about it. Number two, contractors who do know about it don't understand it.
Okay.
Number three, lawyers know it and hate it because there's no litigation. It's over very quickly. It's not really a good arrow. And if you're running a legal practice, not really something you want to be doing. I get that. And number five, construction contractors don't understand it and don't want to.
Why they don't want to?
It took me a while to work out that they don't want to. Because they're too busy tendering, quoting, and not only that, funnily enough, wading through piles of text and writing submissions and looking through documentation is not really what a concreter wants to do, or a gyprocking contractor or anyone. That's just not their game. But it took a couple of years for me to work that out. But I thought, I think there's some scope here. I'd enjoy doing it. And the arts degree and the business degree combined to give you that skill set to prepare submissions and write submissions. Submission is basically, Mario, a long essay that talks about what happened with the work, who said what, here's evidence supporting the version of events, here's what the contract says, why should you get paid, yada, yada. And put it all together in a single submission, which is exactly what I did all through uni and what I did in my...
Well done, there.
class.
Well done. You see how the life is like, it's unusual. I mean, you go into the life and then suddenly you start doing your own business, something you never thought about.
You get opportunities and you take them, and that's where life leads you.
Yeah.
Well, it did seem to connect dots. So then in 2006, that's when I started with that business in the front sunroom of my Randwick apartment.
Yeah.
So by then I had married my wife Tanya. So we married in March 2004. And I started in 2006. So in 2006, I was in this apartment and just getting going. And Tanya was pregnant with my first son. Not yet born. He was born in September. And I had to try and make this thing work. So I started by offering trade associations the chance to run seminars. So I'd written up and created a seminar with notes and descriptions. And this.
So you're like a pioneer in that type of industry. Because
Yeah,
there was
I
nothing-
decided right at the beginning that I was going to own this space.
Yeah.
No one else was interested in it. I thought it provided a very valuable service for a market that was not serviced at all.
On that note, what was the biggest obstacle starting a business?
It was
In all honesty, what was your biggest obstacle?
getting
Wake up
clients.
5 o'clock in the morning. Clients,
getting
okay.
clients. Getting clients. I mean, the biggest frustration for me was I'm offering something that is so important to their business. I can do it well.
Yeah.
There should be a no-brainer for them wanting to use me,
Yeah.
and yet it didn't quite work.
What
It
was
just-
that? Is this
it was
because
very
the English
frustrating.
was too, condensed, written, the way they don't understand? As you said, they didn't want to understand, or they just simply didn't care.
No. It was just it was an issue of awareness. Okay, so first of all, they had to be aware of what the act actually did, and they had to be aware of me, and they had to be aware of the kind of results that the act could produce. So I had 3 levels of awareness that no one was aware of, that would take years. I mean, we're years down the track.
Yeah.
So at that time, so how do I do that with no budget? I can't go on TV. I don't have investors. Couldn't do any of it. So the best, lowest cost way that I could do it quickly to get an audience was to offer seminars to trade associations, and a lot of them took me on. And
Interesting, Interesting, Anthony, because, people who listen this now, our listeners, there's many entrepreneurs there, and we all believe, I was the one like why people doesn't want to use my services. You need this, you need this, but then you understand that you need to create something there to educate them first. So who was your biggest support on that part of creating Contractors Debt Recovery Company? Who was your biggest support?
Who's my biggest support? I don't know. I can't look at any particular. I can't look at anything. I suppose it's been going for a while. There's an arc in how the business evolved, but back at that time, I have to thank those trade associations for giving me a break, because, and in particular, if I could name one, it would definitely be the Civil Contractors Federation. They were very happy to put members. We ran classes, and I offered one class that sold out.
Yeah.
Another one sold out. Another one sold out. The 3 classes sold out almost immediately. So this is back 2006.
Wow.
And that's how it started. Now, what I didn't understand then, but I very much understand now, is that in construction, you've got these natural gatherings where these guys all talk to each other, guys and girls, I should say, more frequently today especially, is on building sites. So if I can help the air conditioning guy, he's probably having a coffee with the civil guy on the same site, both of them struggling to get paid, and one talks to the other. I didn't understand that at that point, but running those seminars, I had immediately, and I ran them pretty well, and immediately I had 100, 200 people who would talk about me to colleagues
other,
in the industry. They all talk to each other. And that's when it kind of started, but very slowly, man. It was spluttering. I was trying other marketing initiatives. I tried a fax blast. You could send out 1,000 faxes.
What's a fax?
90.5, Darren Murray, we studio, Anthony Eager from Contractors Debt Recovery. So to all builders, traders, please tune in on 90.5, the best, most desirable radio station on the planet.
27 minutes past 11. You're on the live.
Sure
9.5.
Sure
Business
it is,
Insights with Mark.
Darren and I waiting something, so stay tuned in the next couple of weeks. You're gonna be pleasantly surprised. I put him in the heat actually, but as I say, we're gonna do it. So to all of our listeners, Darren and Omar are gonna do something very special in very near future. So stay with us. But before that, we're talking to Anthony Igra from Conscious Debt Recovery. Anthony, you said who helped you, how they help you, and hello to father-in-law and your family on the line, because that was very nice what you said. And how did you finally manage to break into the game with the construction contract or act, whatever it's calling? So
Yeah, it was okay. So look, the act itself, I realised I had to make people aware of it and then comfortable using it and engaging me to do it. And in that, the word was spreading, but it wasn't. There's a mindset that I became aware of with construction contractors, which was you just cop it. You lose 150 grand, just deal with it, move on, take the loss, keep moving on. So again, I had to fight the mindset with, well, why are you taking the loss? You can get it. Let's go and get it. Oh, you think?
yeah, but the losses are like not a few $100.
No,
They must be
they're ridiculous. The current figures are $3 billion a year goes unpaid. $3,000 million that are not in businesses' pockets. 3,000
Darren, how many
million.
bicycles that day?
Lots of bicycles, lots of bicycles. And Anthony, I was just thinking, I came from a working period of 20 years, and in the later part of that, for where I worked, I was doing project management of large construction projects, and the one I did leave was.
Oh, you've kept that pretty quiet for the last
I
hour
have,
and a bit,
I
haven't
have.
you? Just as well I'm out of arm's length.
Yes, but a client, not a contractor. So actually the contractors, they can be maybe as difficult to a client as they can to the subbies as well. But I understand that a lot of what's going to happen is around the variations.
Yeah.
And so I can see that a contractor asks a subby to go and do that work, and the subby thinks it's within their contract with the contractor, but actually it's a variation for the client. And the client decides not to pay, and so that goes down the line.
Yep.
Have you had those sorts of examples? And how
What
do you work
example?
with them?
That is that's 80% of the work.
Yeah.
Is the variations. You talk about like it's a weird add-on. That's really most of it.
And that's something that most of our listeners, unless they're in the industry, just wouldn't understand how this all works and how difficult it can be for someone that you're helping.
Well, it's simply extra work. So either what happens is contractors will be asked to do, and even builders who got builders clients, asked to do extra work. Can you just go and do this? So it's not scoped or recorded, and no one stops and goes, hang on, is that extra or is that in the contract?
Yeah.
If it's a builder between a developer, they might know it's extra, but already decide they're not going to pay the subby for it, and they're not going to bother their client, the developer, for it, and the subby just wears it, or they think it's in the subby scope of work, and then all of a sudden realise when they look at the scope that they've missed a huge chunk out of the scope.
Is that illegal? Like I'm sending you, if it's out of the scope of the work.
You'd like to say it's illegal, but in some cases it's just poor project management, and then someone says you got to do it. And then it's often the poor subbies that have to wear it, and that's where Anthony fits in.
Yeah. That's a big part of the job. So that they have to do. They do extra work. No one document. I mean, the worst thing that ever happened to the construction industry was this little thing of the phone.
Yeah.
Because everyone just talks, because no one wants to write anything down. And thank God they don't like writing things down, because that's why I have a business.
Celebrity as well. You're on a TV show, Current Affair, recently.
2 years ago. I was on Current Affairs.
And how did you feel going on TV?
But I enjoyed the experience. I thought it was really good. I think the plight. I mean, look, it was obviously raised a lot of awareness about what I do, but it also raised awareness of the actual plight of what goes on. I mean, one fellow on that show, one of my clients was down $2.5 million, just over $2 million he'd worked on a job for 4 years and had not been paid a cent.
Come on, seriously.
No, seriously, but that's...
How you can work 2 years not being paid?
That's the first question. I'm going, John, are you mad? What's going on?
If you're volunteering for this great radio station, but apart from that...
That's acceptable in the beginning, but we talk about building site or anything like 2 years working. not get paid 2 years. Then you need to go to Anthony and.
But he was literally down to his last Zach. He'd maxed everything out. He'd had nothing. He thought, I've asked so many times, but this is the thing. This is the mindset I was telling you about, where it's just not worth it. Can I really do it? Just very downtrodden mindset. And I said, well, let's go get it. And he had fantastic documentation. He had God's gift of documentation. He had reports. He had everything. You just had to put it together in a submission, which is what we do. And sure enough, we got the whole lot decided in his favour. He got paid 2 days later.
Who is paying the
paid.
subcontractors? Who is paying the subcontractors?
Well, their client. It'll be the builder.
Yeah.
If it's a builder working for a developer, it's the developer that has to pay it. Whoever in the contract you're doing the work for.
Yeah.
In this particular, I have to say, in this particular instance, it was a unnamed state utility. Yeah, who hadn't paid him.
It's called the Marion Darren utility.
See, because when we'd won that one, he got an email from them, a very terse email that says, we're just letting you know we're going to be transferring $2.132 million into your account tonight.
Yeah.
But we're reserving our rights to we reserve our rights in respect to this matter, or something like that, just a usual blurb, right?
Yeah.
So John sends me that email, and I rang him. I said, this is fantastic, mate. Tomorrow morning you'd have $2 million in your bank account. It's incredible. No, this is far from over. This is awful news. I said, what do you mean it's awful news? They're reserving their rights, Anthony. They're reserving their rights.
Why he didn't sell the soul?
I said, John, do you even know what that means?
Yeah, that's
not really. It means they're very, very angry.
Yeah.
And they're paying you. And he got paid, and the rest is history. So that saved his bacon. I've had a few stories like that. But I mean, if we go from where our story was, I was struggling along. But in 2007, again referred from someone that I was in a seminar with. In 2007, a huge company contacted me, a civil cartage company contacted me, and they were owed $3 million on a huge state government project.
Wow! Darren, did you hear these numbers?
$3 million, but they were $500,000 in overdraft.
It's amazing.
Well, we'll take a short break to just that spinning numbers comes out of my head, because this is the huge numbers, Anthony.
Yeah, it's scary.
And you have a sets of skills to help many builders there. You're listening along 90.5 Business with Mario. With us in studios, Anthony here from Contractor Recovery. Be back after short break.
Mario's just stepped out at the moment, but we've got Anthony Igra in the studio, and Anthony's talking all about his business of contractors debt recovery. And I sprung on him that I kind of was in the industry, but from a point of view of the client, which I hope he understands.
Oh yeah, sometimes.
Now, you're leading us through some examples of how you got started in your business and
Yeah,
with
look,
contractors, and I believe you've got another one too.
Well, this was kind of a turning point one. So this was right at the beginning where I really struggled to get some clients, and this was a $3 million. This was a $3 million debt, and on a state government project, and I didn't really even know how to charge properly for it, but I said to them, if I get you your money, are you happy to give me 3%? Because I thought, well, this kind of numbers is what people sell houses for, and a real estate agent asks for 3% or 2%. So I thought, well, if I did and you got paid or got any money, would you give me 3%? And they said, yeah, that sounds fair enough. Go get them. So so I did, and at that time, I had literally, I had no job. I hadn't worked for a while. I had no money in the bank. I'm virtually no money in the bank. My son had been born by then, and I remember holding him just in the chair at night time, thinking, how are we going to survive? This little guy is relying on me for the next 20 years. This business is not going anywhere. I'm just trying so hard to get it off the ground. And I started to sob a little bit, going, well, what am I doing with my life? Am I really doing even the right thing? Anyway, I was running this matter at that time, and it was very, very stressful. Anyway, I ran the case and I won the whole amount in their favour. And now, will they get paid? You win the decision, but the other party still has to pay on that decision, and they do. We now have a very high 90% pay on decision ratio, but back then we're just starting out. And we had very little money left. I was very stressed, and my wife said, you know what, let's just all go down to Berry for the weekend. We'll just rent some little place and just take some time off and just chill out. And so I did. We were packing the bags. She was already in the thing, and there's a little shoe shop in Berry, and she loves their shoes. And
I love Berry.
I just said, forget it, you know. Anyway, I'm literally walking out to the car to put the bag in the boot, and my mobile phone rings, and it's the accounts lady at my client. It was quite a big company. To tell me, Anthony, we actually got paid. We got paid yesterday, and we'll be paying you your commission today. So you do the numbers.
Wonderful.
Nice
holiday that weekend.
I said, actually, you know that shoe shop?
The shoes are back on.
So look, it was a struggle, but it was a struggle from 2007. It was still, that was 1 in a million. But the business really came into its own in 2010. It was really a long struggling along the bottom just to pay your bills and to build awareness. But awareness built. There was a construction boom. I was talking to bigger and bigger audiences. I was talking at industry conferences, and I was doing a bit of marketing. The website started to have a lot of information, a lot of my videos. I did a series of videos in 2010, which are still on my website today, which have big viewership. And I think more than anything, I really started to understand my client.
Do you believe that persistence paid off?
100%.
What do you think? 100%. Can you share with us what do you think when the people stop believing in what they do?
People almost always invariably give up just as they're about to succeed. And everything we're told in our lives is fast success, instant gratification.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen quick, it's just not going to happen at all.
Yeah.
And, remember the Walmart fortune in America was built, they went for 20 years or something before they got their second store.
Interesting enough, it's like, that's a powerful story, Anthony. And, I truly believe that our listeners, and particularly those who run their own businesses, can draw from your experience. And I truly believe that persistence it is. Of course, it's difficult. Darren's going to, agree with me on this one. We're hearing a lot of people, and we're sharing, some together some views on life. It's hard when money doesn't come on account. It's hard to sustain. Do you like to share with us what anybody in your life told you, don't do this, you're going to fail, why are you doing this, you should go back in your office and do something like this? There was anybody, you don't need to name, but there was the people who told you, don't do this, Anthony, this is not good for you?
No, I haven't had that, but I've had in my corporate life that you're very abrasive and you get people, you're abrasive, you get people offside, and you just don't toe the line.
Yeah.
And see, I thought that was actually a compliment. It took me a while to work out. But look, corporate life wasn't for me. But all those things I think are pluses for if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to go out on your own, if you're going to persist, you have to have that kind of sense of strength in your own mind that you will eventually succeed. And everything that I was doing said this has to succeed eventually. It's just a matter of awareness, and it's a matter of momentum, and it's a matter of a very common term that we read about now, which is a tipping point, Mario. So everything has its tipping point.
I have to ask you one tipping point. Tipping point for Darren and I was that we decided to be in the studio during the COVID-19, and thanks to Darren, I mean, that was a great experience because we could talk to the people. It was virtual, it was over the phone. It's not like in the studio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can't ask the questions because you don't see the reactions. However, COVID-19 actually proved to me one thing: how unprepared most businesses are, and how people actually fragile they are. Now, a lot of businesses sunk down. How did you go during the COVID-19 crisis?
I'm embarrassed to say.
Why? Don't be embarrassed.
It was amazing. I mean, we had the business mad. It was just mad. We've done. Have a record year this year. During that COVID period, I could continue to work. I have an office that's big. I have just me and an assistant. There was enough distance between us, and we just kept going. And the construction industry didn't stop. That just kept going. So the two things I needed to keep going just kept going.
Yeah.
But what changed was the level of anxiety. So normally, another amazing thing is that when people are owed these amounts of money, they will wait 6 to 8 months before they talk to me or to anyone to get some help. They'll just cop it and argue back and forth and chase it for that amount of time. So, but with COVID-19, no more 6 months. Now, I want my money now. So all of a sudden, instead of just a certain inquiry rate over a period of time, it all bottlenecked, and everyone was contacting us.
Yes.
And for big amounts, 700,000, 1.2 million. But also, I don't want people to think that that's just the numbers we deal with. Our stock clients are owed 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. Between 20 and 50,000 is really your garden variety. But a lot of people, and I had not been busier in the last 3 months.
Well,
than
good
ever.
for you. That's a good successful story. We'll take a very short break because we need to wind up the show in next 10 minutes. Darren and I, we're enjoying this one to all our listeners. With us in studio today, it's Anthony Gara. Contracts with Deborah Carr to all tradies. Everybody who's struggling to recover their debts, please find Anthony Igara. And Darren and I will take a short break. Around 90.5 Business Insights with Mario and Darren.
90.5.
It's 8 minutes to 12 and you're listening to Live 90.5 Business Insights with Mario.
Mario will not be alive if it's not Darren Caves Davis behind. Behind. It's another privilege to have in the studio the man with unique skills and superpowers to make your money work for you, which you lost. If you're a trader, if you're a builder, did I miss something else, Anthony? Who you recover money as well?
Yeah, no,
Dry cleaners.
anyone construction work. You know.
Construction works. Unfortunately, for those who bought units and apartments, I feel truly sorry. There's a couple, sad stories this morning. Again, another building is being declared faulty, unsafe to live. Anthony can't help with that one. However, if you're a trader, if you are electrician, if you're a plumber, builder, please contact Anthony Igra. How they can contact you, Anthony?
There's the website. Contract.
Okay, that's enough. Okay, so. I was like it, but that's a. So.
Yeah, look, the website, contractorsdebtrecovery.com.au. We've got a 1300 number that they can contact us on. A phone or just an email, which is contact@contractorsdebtrecovery.com.au. And we run claims, obviously here, but actually all around Australia.
Around Australia, yeah?
Yeah, every state has a version of this act, and we know them all.
Well, Anthony, that's beautiful. Before we wind up, I'd like to ask you, if you have the last $10 in your pocket, what would you do?
Go down to Messina and get a triple scoop of ice cream.
Darren, I never asked you, what would you do with your last $10 in your pocket?
I'll probably buy some Marmite for my mum.
Oh my God, that's my second question. Do you like the Vegemite or Marmite?
No, Vegemite, Marmite.
What's Vegemite, yeah?
Nutella. Well, if you Nutella, there is a standoff in my house between Nutella and Vegemite, and it gets pretty ugly.
Really?
Yeah. That's
Why is
right.
that there?
So my kids are into the Nutella camp. I'm in the Vegemite camp, and my wife hates both.
Okay.
Pretty ugly at breakfast. I'll tell you.
Well, Anthony, before we wind up the show, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you, Deborah Eveson from the PR Bay Agency, for sending us lovely Anthony Igara. Igara, how do you spell his surname?
Igra, I-G-R-A.
Igra, sorry, not Igara.
Not Igara. Igra.
You see, my English is not good, man.
I don't know. It sounds exotic when you say it, Mario.
The Darren 50 clicks? No?
No,
No,
definitely
really,
not.
no.
I'll be in the support vehicle.
Being our guest today
you very
on
much.
1.5 Businesses with Mario. Again, before our listeners go, the website name?
Contractorsdebtrecovery.com.au.
And that was Anthony Igra. I can't. I'm sorry. You need to Google it.
Anthony Igra.
Inside, Live 95. Business Insights with Mark. There's going to be a podcast with Anthony, and you can hear his details again, how he can help you if you're trading, if you're expecting money, and will not be paid. Thank you again to our listeners. Friday, midday, Businesses with Mari Darren.
All the leaves are brown.